Brought to you in front of a live studio audience. Kitchen Riffin.
Alright, welcome to sunny Boulder, Colorado, even though it's nighttime. You're tuning into, or viewing, I suppose, Kitchen Riffin with Chefo, Jameso, and today we're making possibly my favorite substance on earth, walnut butter. Back at the Boulder Farmers Market, I want to say 5 years ago, I came across this nut butter company called Life of Riley. I think they're out of business now, but they had all sorts of nut butters, peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter. My favorite one on earth was walnut butter. It was this super rich and buttery, but super light and fluffy nut butter. And it was one of those things that I thought was so good, you couldn't possibly make it on your own. So I hounded this company, Life of Riley, because they stopped bringing their nut butter around. And turned out, like I said, I think they went out of business. But if you Google walnut butter recipe, first one that comes up is the one that I'm using today. Really the only thing I change is that I don't measure the ingredients. So, thanks to walnuts.org for this recipe. I have pre-toasted off in a nonstick skillet on about medium heat for about 5 minutes. So 2 cups of walnuts. And we're going to put that into a big food processor. And the first thing you're going to do, super easy recipe, you're just going to grind that up. Walnuts, I feel like burn like that. So you got to be vigilant. Like I said, it usually takes somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. I usually go based on smell for walnuts. I mean, you can touch them and they'll be, warm to the touch. But usually once you just smell those oils, you can tell that it's on its way. And really, you don't have to toast the walnuts. You can put them in raw. I've heard you can soak them. That's what the walnuts.org says. But I think toasting pretty much adds flavor to whatever you're going to cook in terms of grains or nuts. So this needs a little bit more time. I'm going to put it back on and run it for, usually it takes about a minute until it grinds. The oils kind of congeal it into a little bit more of a paste. On the top level, it's just still kind of like a crumble. And on the bottom, you'll start seeing this stick to the sides. So you can see it start coming together, and you'll see it stick to the sides. And just give it about another maybe 20, 30 seconds. It should start mixing up into a little bit more of a paste-like substance. And you'll have to scrape it down maybe once or twice. I'm happy with that consistency. So there are really only 2 other essential ingredients, and that's some sort of neutral oil. Walnut oil is preferable. Mine was about 5 years old, so I threw it out. But this is vegetable oil. You could use canola oil, another nut oil, avocado oil, anything, any really flavor you want, but you want something neutral typically. So that's vegetable oil and canola oil are your, the most common. So they recommend 2 teaspoons for this recipe. I think it's better to just kind of add it and add it in small bits and then see kind of where that takes you and get it to a consistency of your liking, but it should be real fluffy. I'll show you in a second. So I'm just adding it in a slow strain.
And what are you looking for?
What am I looking for? I'm looking just for it to get a little bit more like a cream, right? The oil is going to give it kind of a creaminess already, but it's still going to be a little bit crumbly. So you're looking for it to come together and actually start to look like butter, which it's already starting to do a little bit, but you can tell, you could stop it right there, but I can tell it's a little bit grainy, so it's going to need a little bit more. I've probably added about a little bit less than a teaspoon. And so I'm about halfway to where the recommended amount would be. So I'm just scraping it down. And when it's all up against the side, that's a good sign that you're getting there. But one thing, that oil is typically going to want to stick to that bottom, so make sure you get the bottoms in addition to all these little sides. So that's about the consistency I want. I'm going to let it run one more time so it incorporates that last little layer of oil. But we're pretty much at the point where we have walnut butter. So before I give it one final run, I'm not usually super precise about salt, but since this is a, pretty well measured recipe, I like to actually measure out the 1/4 teaspoon. That alone is walnut butter, but 2 other ingredients, some beautiful Argentine honey for the honey lovers. I'm putting probably about 2/3 of a teaspoon, not quite a teaspoon. I know some people think it needs more. And then cinnamon, just a little drizzle. That's probably about maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon, maybe 1/4. Not a ton. It goes a long way. And I'm not looking for honey or cinnamon as a flavor in this. They just enhance the walnut. I mean, the walnut and the salt alone gives you some amazing flavors. So you're going to want to give that one more little scrape down. Make sure that none of that honey is down at the bottom on its own. You want it incorporated to everything else. But this is I think the last time I'm going to have to scrape this down before I present to you my favorite nut butter. And that's coming from somebody who already adores peanut butter past a point that would be healthy. So, it's probably my favorite substance. Take that blade out. Watch it, that's super sharp. And then maybe just give it one more stir, because under that blade there's probably a little bit of oil that's kind of hanging out on its own. And that, ladies and gentlemen, we can put into a little jar. And it's super, as you can see, it's super easy, super light. And it tastes really unlike anything I've ever tasted. So, that right there is a kitchen Riffin favorite, walnut butter with a dash of honey and cinnamon.